Okay, we'll call the Town Plan and Zoning Commission public hearing and regular meeting of Wednesday, May 10th to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Of the Secretary, read the roll.
Commissioner Langita?
Here.
Commissioner Canella?
Here.
Commissioner Clapping?
Here.
Commissioner Meyer? Commissioner Payne?
Here.
Commissioner Sarah?
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski?
Here.
Commissioner Batalika? Commissioner DeAndre?
Okay, is there any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Next item is public participation. Anyone from the public wishing to speak before the commissions, come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Louis Cruz. I live on 395 Mountain Road. You can all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here to present a public commentary regarding the Balf Quarry Operations Site Plan Approval listed on tonight's agenda. I speak for myself and for my neighborhood when I urge that this petition not be approved.
Normally, we don't hear public comments on items that are on the agenda, but I'm going to waive the rules to allow you to speak on it.
Thank you. Thank you. As I said, I speak for myself and my neighborhood when I urge that this petition not be approved. Mountain Road, the street that myself and at least 30 other affected families share, marks the border between a residential zone and an industrial zone owned by Tilcon Connecticut Incorporated. Although the zones are divided by a sound blocking barrier, we can still see the distasteful sight of machinery sticking out above the wall. Not only this, but we can also hear the sounds of machinery from early hours of 7 a.m. until late in the afternoon on every weekday running from mid-April until about August. I describe it as an annoying cacophony of revving machinery, trucks backing up, and excavators working not more than 2,000 feet away from our homes. Now, you may think that this isn't much of a problem. I mean, after all, there are other neighborhoods in our town. I mentioned Day Street, which you could say have it worse than us. Compared to Day Street, we are better off in that our neighborhood has a dividing wall between the zones, while theirs does not. However, it isn't just the noise and the not-so-pretty view that troubles our neighborhood. Often during the summer, the company will drill the ground, causing an earthquake-like feel to radiate from their site to our houses for about 3 to 5 seconds. When this happens, it frightens us, as it makes the glassware in our cabinets shake, the floors of our houses rumble, and I would even go so far as to say it weakens our house's foundations, though I don't have any evidence to prove this at the time. You may well say that this is normal for a residential zone near an industrial zone, and that we should have anticipated this issue when we bought the house. Nevertheless, from my perspective, I consider this a big blow to the quality of life in our neighborhood, and I want to take advantage of this meeting to draw attention to our problem. This issue is not something to be taken lightly. It affects us on a near daily basis in the summer. On hot summer nights, we can't leave our windows open because we know that in the morning we will be woken up by a sound of heavy machinery in front of our houses. Even with the windows closed, we can often hear the sound of the company working. We also can't have the furniture touching the walls because when the ground shakes, the furniture damages the walls or at least makes a disrupting, vibrating noise. It goes as far as affecting our barbecues and family bonding time because of the annoying sounds that we hear from our backyards. I could name a few others, but these are the most aggravating of them. I am aware that this meeting is in reality only a formality, and that the agreement that was signed between the town and the BALF in 1989 to establish these biennial meetings has not made a difference. The town has approved Tilcon's plans to continue mining, despite knowing the negative consequences that this practice has on the neighborhood. Now, I don't want you to take me wrong. I'm not here to imply that you don't care about the public opinion. I know that our town leaders care. The referendum to build a new town hall a few years ago is an example of this, that our town representatives do represent our opinion and take action based on that. But I also know that Tocon, like any other business, pays taxes to our town. And it's not just any other business. Tocon, Connecticut Incorporated, was on the top 25 taxpayers list of 2013 for the town of Newington. So it represents a big source of revenue for our town. I do recognize that. The manufacturing business paid over $10 million in taxes to the town that year, which likely helped to fund many of the services our town offers. But I do believe, however, that I make a valid point in suggesting that the town consider not renewing Tocon's presence in our neighborhood for another 2 years, as it represents discontent and frustration in our working class neighborhood. I'd like to mention that a public server's duty is to do precisely that, to serve the interests of the people of our town. And unfortunately for our case, our neighborhood would not feel represented by you in this issue if you decide to approve the company's proposal. Finally, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity for me to speak tonight, as I know there was no public hearing scheduled for this meeting. But it comes to show that the issue at hand is very important to me and our neighborhood, and I do believe I have presented a clear stance that we take on this issue. Is there any questions or anything?
No, we're good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak at this time?
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Just a question about item number 8. Is there a public hearing, and if so, what is it in reference to? And in hearing this gentleman speak, he's not the only one that I've heard make complaints about BOLF and the noise. I live in the area, but I don't feel the effects of it. I'm just curious whether they're able to voice their opinions at any public hearings at any time, or is it just that BOLF comes before you biannually for the review of the operations and the site plan approval? Just 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, answer.
Okay. Public hearing is on the agenda just because that's where it is on the agenda. There are no public hearings today, which is why there was nothing underneath it. As far as the BOLF, I know that there is, on paper at least, a citizens oversight committee that's supposed to provide some kind of oversight of BOLF. It has members representing different constituencies, like I think there are a couple of council people on it, someone from BOLF, some neighbors. I don't know how active that committee is. They are listed as one of the standing committees on the Newington Town website. So maybe a citizen who was interested in this could contact someone on that committee to see if they have met recently and if they would meet and maybe listen to some of the neighbors' concerns about BOLF.
Can I respond?
No, we're not, we don't get into
No, I was looking at both of you when I said that for both of your benefits. But anybody can call me tomorrow. We can discuss it further.
seeing no other public go into the next item is executive session. Maybe we should, I'd like to, can we push that off first?
We could. I just want to have the opportunity to discuss some things before we vote on the.
Get into
Sure.
the ball,
Okay.
the ball thing.
Certainly.
And while the people are still here, they don't have this. Zoning enforcement officers report.
Okay, so I know I was here at the last meeting and we discussed a portion of April, but to get back into the normal routine, I'm back again giving you the full report, which you received, which is the entire month of April. Again, this is the new format which shows everything, so you will see some complaints and things that we're doing that we might not have acted on, but we have received. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions or, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cherry Hill Drive, 80. Is there any update? You know, it's been over a month now.
80 Cherry Hill.
Second
Just-
page.
I see it on, yeah, second page, third from the bottom.
Yeah, there's work going on that site, and I'm I'm trying to see if it is in relation to what they might, creating a parking area for the cars, so that's why I've been watching it.
Okay.
I haven't heard back from the resident who called me, so I can't, they didn't leave a number, so I can't let them know, but I've just been going by periodically to watch when the work's done. I'll see if
Are they doing renovations on the house and
something
workers'
like that,
trucks?
yeah.
Okay.
They have the area between the house and the driveway's kind of dug up, so
Okay.
that might be why the cars are there. So that's, we're just watching that for now.
Any other commissioner remarks on this? Dominic?
Yeah, could you give us an update on Holmes Road unlicensed auto repair? And is there anything new to report on the two sightings of the roosters, one at Vivian and one at Walsh Avenue?
So both of the rooster complaints, we've sent notices out to the homeowners. So I did hear back from Vivian and confirmed that there is no rooster on site at that point. I haven't heard anything from Walsh yet, but the notices have gone out. Regarding Holmes Road, I did get a complaint about the tenant in the rear of the building having some type of repair shop or facility or just unregistered vehicles. So I sent a notice to the owner, who was out of state for the winter, and he came into my office about a week or two ago, and he said that he had informed his tenant that the vehicles needed to be removed. So right now, we're kind of in a waiting period to see if he's gonna get rid of them. But the owner is not the one who's got the vehicles there, so the owner's cooperating with me at this point.
Is he operating a business inside there or not?
What he's told me is that he purchased the vehicles privately, and he works on them privately and sells them at auction. There's no public that comes and goes in the building. There's no license or anything, which is why I've told him he needs to cease and he needs to get the vehicles off site, because there's no approval for any type of repair facility there, as far as our records show.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the zoning enforcement officer? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Remarks by commissioners, any remarks? There's no public hearings. Approval of the minutes of April 13th.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion made and second. Any discussion, deletions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Next item, new business, petition 1517. Just read it, Dominic.
Yes, certainly. Petition 15-17, biannual review of bulk quarry operations and site plan approval, Tilcon, Connecticut Incorporated. Owner applicant Frank T. Lane, 1 Forester Road, Branford, Connecticut. Contact.
You want to come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Name's Chris Costello, 231 Garden Street, Weathersfield. I'm here to represent Tilcon for their biannual quarry review and site plan approval. I don't know if you guys are looking at the site plan. I thought it would be on the screen.
Oh, I can do that.
I mean, I could explain it unless you don't want me to.
I also have, the applicants also submitted some large versions of the site plan if anybody would like one. I have several of them.
Well, anyway, overall, in the last 2 years on the site, it's been pretty much unremarkable, any changes. As far as the quarry goes, which is located in the eastern half of the site, which if you're looking at the site plan, it's the upper half. That is, the internal progression of the quarry face is the only change. The perimeter of the quarry has not changed at all, so the outward expansion of the quarry hasn't changed. It's only been internal. On the eastern side of the property, at the back end of the quarry, we replaced a security fence.
Sorry, folks. Okay.
We replaced a security fence on the back end of the quarry, which is the eastern side of the property. We're having an agreement with the Newington Police Department to possibly, or they're going to do some due diligence to use the radio tower on the south end of the quarry. It's one of their options. So that's going on. The northeast corner of the property, the garage, we bought, Tilcon, Connecticut bought Costello Industries. They have now been moved from Costello Road. They are now in Newington at our main garage facility. The biggest thing that's gonna happen on site is probably gonna be the removal of capital pipe 6, which we've been having vandalism issues with. We had a fire there last fall. We put security fence around it, and there was just another issue with fire last couple months. We hired, as of last weekend, 2 Newington police officers have been hired to be on site during the weekends to try to deter vandalism. Other than that, going forward for the next 2 years, it's pretty much the same except for removing capital pipe.
Any commissioner remarks? Stanley?
Can you tell me what your hours of operation are? I'm just curious. I mean, I was listening to the gentleman, I know that you should start somewhere around 7 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
I think it's 7 to 3:30, and then I don't know if there's a full second shift or if it's a kind of a half a second shift, maintenance shift.
Right, but I mean, you're not doing any nighttime operations, are you?
No,
Okay, so there's no nighttime hauling out there at all?
no,
And no weekend hauling out of there?
not that I know of unless the asphalt plant's running, but I don't know what their
Okay,
schedule is.
no, I'm
this
just
time.
curious, that's
Yeah,
all.
no,
Thank you.
I mean, that depends on demand, so I don't know what their schedule is right now, so.
Any other commissioner remarks? Any comments, Dominic?
Yeah, I know it says site plan approval, but if I'm not mistaken, I always thought it was just a review of the operations back when I've had them coming in front here. It's really not it's kind of deceiving. It's really not a site plan approval because they have approval, but we had them coming in and to review their operations every 2 years and give us an update. But they have a blanket site plan approval, I thought, for their operation. And this all came about because of some complaints from the residents. And so they came in every 2 years to give us their blasting and what they're doing on site and so on. So I don't know if this is, I could be mistaken, but I think it's a misrepresentation because I don't think that we can really deny them site plan approval. We're here just to hear a review of their operations.
I agree, as a practical matter, it's just a review, but the letter of the agreement between the town and BOF back in '89 does use the phrase "and approval of the site plan by TPC." That's why the application uses the word approval. But I would agree, I don't think you're really in a position to deny approval of it. I think you're in a position to ask for maybe some tweaks or some things, but no, I don't think it's approval in the sense that you can actually deny it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have just one comment on the fence and I know it may not be you, but you could bring it back to somebody.
You're talking about what fence?
When you turn onto Mountain Road, you got the
noise-
sound barrier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overgrowth, and I don't know who oversees that with the overgrowth that grows down into the street on Mountain and what the town might own, what you guys might own. So if you could just bring it back to your people and,
Yep.
because we do have residents that live on that street and keeping it nice and,
Yep.
that's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? Okay. Mr. Planner?
Right, I do have one comment. I asked the town engineer to review the plan, to compare with last year, just to see if there was anything there that the commission should be aware of. And he noted that, and it's in the letter from Tilcon, that they intend to demolish the Capitol Pipe building that was damaged in a arson recently. They plan on demolishing it. The town engineer suggested that when the demolition happens, that Tilcon make some plan for preventing the demolition debris dust from literally washing off the site if it rains while demolition is going on. And we discussed it with the applicant. Didn't exactly come to an agreement, I'll just leave it at that, but it did come to my attention because I spoke with the building inspector about the demolition permit process. And part of the demo permit process, it does involve the health department to review demolition to make sure that public health and safety are protected. So I think knowing that the health department will be reviewing this and will probably have their own requirements, that's probably sufficient.
Normally, what is the action that we do at this point?
Right, I went back and looked at the last 2 years or 2 times this was done in 2015 and 2013, and in both cases, they were approved the same night. So you could certainly do that. I have a motion to approve available for you, so it was on the table when you came in tonight, stapled to the updated memo. So it's at the commission's discretion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we move petition 15-17 to old business for action for tonight.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move that to old business for action. There is a committee, a BOF committee that I'm not sure how active it is, but if you could call the planner tomorrow, and he'll give you some information as to who's on the, or you could even look it up online on the town website and go to boards and commissions, and it'll give you the name of the committee, which is I think it's something BOF committee. And then you'll be able to see who is on that committee and who the chairman is, and make a couple of phone calls and find out if they're active or not. And these are appointments that are made by the political parties, so you might want to get in touch with your party if you want to get involved in that particular committee or board. But I know there's a committee. I'm not sure how active they have been in the past.
If I can just say something.
Go ahead.
I tried contacting, I believe it's the same committee you're talking about.
Mr. Cruz, could you come up and speak into the mic so that you get picked up on the, oh, thank you.
I did contact, he's actually my neighbor, Mr. Roger Bacon, is listed as an elector. And he said he founded the committee a few years ago, 1970. I contacted him. He says he wasn't willing to attend this meeting, and that the committee really wasn't active at the time. But I could try contacting the fire marshal he referred me to, or I also tried calling Mr. Edward. It cut out on the page, but he's also listed as a ballot representative. And he hasn't returned the call, but I called him yesterday, or 2 days ago, actually.
Okay, so you're aware of the committee, and
I am
I
aware.
think your best bet would be to talk to the fire marshal.
All right.
Ed Gilligan no longer works for Tilcon.
Okay.
So that's the name I think you're referring to.
All right. Okay.
Okay, we're all set.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Petition 17, is the applicant here?
No, apparently not.
It's up to him.
No. You don't have-
You want me to read it or not?
Yeah, read it.
Petition 16-17, TPZ approval, section 3.23.1, accessory outside use to display exterior furniture at 56 Costello Road, Ashley Furniture. Sammy Brusso, applicant, Zinc LLC, owner, 56 Costello Road, Newington, Connecticut. Contact.
Petitioner here? Mr. Planner?
I don't know. Mr. D'Amato, you've spoken with him. Any idea why he's not here?
No.
Well, then I suggest we table it till next meeting. Unless the commission wants to discuss it. I mean, it is pretty straightforward, but I know your practice is not to take action unless the applicant comes to the
Might be
meeting.
nice to hear from the applicant what he
yes.
has to say. And I noticed they already started working, preparing the site for this patio.
He did talk about just doing parking lot work, because the parking lot was in really bad shape, so he may be, I've been out there, he may be repaving, but when I last spoke to him, he knew that none of this was, that he needed this approval before he could move forward with any of the,
Okay, we want him here because the area where he's repaving is exactly where he wants to put this patio. So the condition of the rest of the parking lot, to me, would lend it to that, he's doing work specifically for this patio. So let's, your motion to,
Table?
table.
I'll make a motion that we table petition 16-17.
Do we have
Second.
to table it to a date?
Well, technically, you're not tabling it because there's no motion on the floor, but that's the phrase we use when we want to postpone something to the next meeting.
We don't even need a motion.
No, not really.
Good, then we made the motion, it's been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move that. Why don't we just finish up with the next couple of items, and then we'll go into the executive session. Go ahead, Dominic.
Petition 17-17, rescind petition 40-16, revocation of special permit 0304 at 174 Francis Avenue, Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant.
You want to do that after the executive session?
Right.
Okay, can we go into the next one?
Newington Junction TOD Overlay District, Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant.
Okay, in the agenda packet was the further work on the grant that I've been working on. I've done some more work on it since then, and I'll be presenting it to the town council because it has to be approved by the town at their meeting later this month for their first reading, and then hopefully they'll approve it at their following meeting, at which point I will have then given you the final version of it, and hopefully it'll go forward.
When does that have to be in by?
June 23rd.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, we're going to go into executive session. Get a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion, to go in executive session.
Motion made and second.
With the town planner and our zoning enforcement officer.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Where are we? Now we're gonna go back to petition 1717. Dominic, you wanna read that?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to excuse myself from this.
Where's the other guy?
He's coming.
Petition 17-17, rescind petition 40-16, the revocation of special permit 0304 at 174 Francis Avenue, Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. I move to rescind the petition 40-16, the revocation of special permit 0304 at 174 Francis Avenue, Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. Findings: 1, TPZ has agreed to settlement in the current zoning enforcement action with the owner of the property at 174 Francis Avenue. Under the terms of that settlement, the owner will reduce the number of vehicles kept outdoors on the property to 46 by June 30th, 2017, and to refurbish the front of the main building. Number 2, the settlement also states that the TPC will rescind the action that it took on October 26, 2016 to revoke the special permit that was originally granted to the owner in 2004.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Comment from the planner.
No, I think that sums it up. This was what was negotiated by the respective attorneys, and this just moves it forward.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Two ayes. It's 4 to 1.
Who said no?
He said no.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
15-17, Cory? We have a motion for 15-17, bulk?
No, we got we have petition 1117 first.
Okay. Petition 1117, site plan approval, parking area at 610 North Mountain Road, 610 North Mountain Road LLC, owner and applicant Bruce Barlow, 259 Wood Pond Road, Glastonbury, Connecticut, contact.
Okay, I believe there's a draft suggested motion in your agenda packet to approve with 2 conditions. Actually, one of those, the second of the condition, that the plan still shows iron pins to be set in the front street corners and that they should be, and that monuments need to be moved. I discussed this with Mr. Bongiovanni. Now, the regulations only require iron pins on parcels. When a street is being created, when there's a new street going in and it turns and bends, we need monuments. But a parcel, a lot that's on a street does not need to have stone monuments. It just needs iron pins. So I suggest you delete condition number 2. Condition number 1, actually, he has already complied with. It came in yesterday. So actually, I recommend approval with no conditions. Although I think Commissioner Payne, we were talking about something. Oh, landscaping?
Landscaping.
Okay, but I do suggest a new condition 2, that some landscaping be added to the plan.
Where's the plan to show what we're approving?
It was in the 2 previous packages.
But it would still have to be in the,
Well, no, but I can certainly find it for you.
if he changed something.
But they didn't
The
change
last
anything. You would have it if they had changed anything.
Yeah, but
That's fine, I'll call it up.
he's asking for him to be changed. We could put a pot with a plant in it, that's changed.
But he didn't. I'm suggesting that you require him to do that. All right, let's see if I can get this bigger. Yeah. Okay, what Commissioner Payne suggested is that we ask the applicant to, let me make it a little bit bigger here. Is that we direct the applicant to put some shrubs or some flowers or something in this grassed area and maybe this grassed area here, but probably this area would be the most appropriate.
Well, that's right next to the road. I was thinking next to the building.
So the area where I'm moving this X, because that's grass, and this area here will be grass. So those are the areas that you're suggesting?
that's
to
what I
plant-
thought.
Some foundation plantings?
Well, foundation
Okay,
plantings.
okay, then approve with the condition that the applicant add some foundation plantings to the plan,
Where's the walkway to the entrances to the building?
right there, where the little
That's
X
my
is.
point, is that's all, what's grass, I'm looking at that right now, I have no differentiation between what's landscape and what's not landscape.
Okay.
And that's my point of not having something fully for us to look at, other than on a computer to approve.
It's the same plan, that's been in the package for the past 2
And
meetings.
and in the past, when other applicants have come, we have required X, Y, and Z for them to do. That's my point.
Okay, so to answer your question, this is the area that will be grassed, and this area will be grassed. So Commissioner Payne is suggesting that it be approved with the condition that foundation plantings be put in here and here. So that would be the one condition of approval. I actually think these would be grass also, but that might be a little kind of crazy to try to put shrubs or anything there also.
They're there already. There are shrubs there already.
Make it make that part of the motion with the stipulation that it be approved by the town planner. So you get to see what he's doing.
Right, okay. To the satisfaction of the town planner would be a appropriate way to phrase it.
Any other questions, Anthony? No. You have the motion.
Yep. I move to approve petition 1117, site plan approval, parking area at 610 North Mountain Road, 610 North Mountain Road LLC, owner and applicant Bruce Barlow, 259 Wood Pond Road, Glastonbury, Connecticut, contact. I move to approve with conditions petition 1117, site plan approval, parking area at 610 North Mountain Road, 610 North Mountain Road LLC, owner applicant Bruce Barlow, 259 Wood Pond Road, Glastonbury, Connecticut, contact. Conditions. 1, architectural drawings of the front of the building shall be submitted in a Mylar format. And 2, some landscaping foundation plants will be added to the plan to the satisfaction of the town planner.
And you can delete that first one, because they did submit
Oh, I'm
during
sorry.
last week.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, I should have remembered that. I'm sorry. So it'd be just conditions. 1, some landscaping foundation plants be added to the plan to the satisfaction of the town planner.
Motion made and second. Any comments?
I'm sorry, who seconded it? Will, thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes. You're all set. Just talk to the planner about what you're gonna put in front.
We have to wait and see what's coming along. As it comes along, we'll see what fits in there.
Okay, good.
All right?
Yep, just touch base with him.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Under old business, we added a petition. Tom?
Petition 1517, biennial review of bulk quarry operations and site plan approval, Tilcon, Connecticut Incorporated, owner applicant Frank T. Lane, 1 Forest Road, Branford, Connecticut, contact.
And sorry, thank you. There's a draft motion that is stapled to an updated memo that was here when you came in. The draft motion does contain a condition, but since, as we discussed, the Central Connecticut Health District is involved in demolition permits, I don't think condition number 1 is required.
Petition 15-17. I move to approve I move to approve petition 15-17, biannual review of Balf Quarry operations and site plan approval, Tilcon, Connecticut Incorporated, owner applicant Frank T. Lane, 1 Forest Road, Branford, Connecticut. Contact with no conditions.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any comments? Any questions? I understand the residents' concerns, but I also understand that Balf Quarry's been here for 100 and something years doing the same operation. That hole didn't get there by itself. We've had problems in the past where we put together this Balf committee. If they're not meeting or something, I think his recourse would be with that committee. But to ask us to ask Balf to cease operations at this point is a far stretch, and we just hope that Balf maintains to try to be a good neighbor and try to work with the people best they can, and we'll see what happens with the committee. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, sir, you're all set. Thank you. Okay, we go into petitions for public hearing. We have anything scheduled?
No.
Town planner report.
Okay, my report is in the package. Chick-fil-A, still nothing. Scroll down to it. Chick-fil-A, I still have nothing to report. They haven't submitted their application yet. DMV location approval. In a nutshell, we need to amend the zoning regulations again to specify that the ZBA has authority over location approval. So just bring that to your attention, and I'll prepare the necessary changes to the regulations for your next meeting, and then at that point, schedule for public hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
On that matter, since it's going back to ZBA and there's a lot of new members on the ZBA, I was wondering if maybe it would be worthwhile for TPZ and the ZBA to meet so that they understand some of the parameters of what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we really have to rush because we have no regulations in place for this right now. Thank you.
Well, no, we do. We have the very flawed ones. They're still very much there. If someone wanted to open up a car dealership in the industrial zone, they could come in tomorrow and apply for a permit. So we do still have rules. They're just, as we know, flawed. Also, when people apply for a renewal of their existing permit, which happens fairly often, the staff handles that. So that doesn't even have to go back to the ZBA.
There is no renewal.
There's no auto-related
No,
business
they
in
do not have
Newington?
to renew their license. Auto license comes, it goes with with the land, and there is no
They get renewed all
renewal
the time.
process.
I've done many of them myself when I was in Cromwell, and Mike does them here. Yes.
I
Yes.
haven't seen any.
I think that's because the staff does them. You wouldn't see them. You would only see the first, as a commissioner, you would only see the first one. And then when they're up for renewal 4 or 5, whatever years later, the staff checks the box saying that a public hearing was held on this back whenever it was held, and that it's still permitted use at that zone. That's very frequent. But again, the commissioners never see that because it's a staff function. It doesn't come to the commission. But now, well, okay. But anyway, if someone does want to obtain a new auto-related permit, they would have to go, or location approval, which is not the same thing as approval of the activity itself. All the location approval is, it's kind of a misnomer. It's just the town's way of saying to DMV that at that address, the type of auto-related business that the individual wants to apply for is allowable. If a town's zoning regulations require a special permit, that person would still have to come to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the special permit. It's a convoluted process that the state created and the legislature makes incredibly complicated, and I've probably already talked about it too much, but the point is we need to redo the zoning regulations to go back to giving the ZBA this authority because of the change in the legislature last year.
I understand that they're just an industrial zone, but hopefully one day, maybe we'll have the regulations corrected. And in that case, one of the most important matters is how close it is to the residential neighborhood and the buffering system. And that plays a large role in location.
True.
And that's why I thought it would be wise to meet with the ZBA, but we don't have those regulations drafted up right now, so.
So at the moment, premature, but you're right, that would be a good thing to do down the road. And then the last item on my report is the digital sign MOU. As you saw when you came in tonight, the council is willing to approve it, but they wanted one phrase deleted, which I put in front of you in bold to see that's the phrase they want deleted. I have a clean copy for the chairman's signature if the chairman wants to sign it tonight after the meeting.
Well, didn't they want to sign it first and then send it to us? Have them sign it and give it back to me.
Okay, I'll do that. And then it's not,
They might want to change it again.
okay, and it's not in my report, but I just want to make the commission aware of the fact that with the temporary sign moratorium expiring in June, if the commission has any thought of possibly wanting to extend the moratorium, and I'm by no means saying you should, I'm just making you aware that if you think you might want to extend the moratorium, you're going to have to make that decision no later than your next meeting, because your next meeting is the deadline to submit the text amendment, which is what it is, to the regional planning agency 30 days before the hearing, which we would have to do before it expires. So you don't need to do anything tonight, but you will need to tell me at the next meeting if you want to even consider extending the moratorium. You don't have to. You can have the public hearing on extending the moratorium and decide not to. But if you don't at least hold the public hearing, you won't be able to extend the moratorium.
Anthony?
Did we not bring that up when we had the two people from Economic Development and the Better Business, not Better, Chamber of Commerce, that they're going back to review their stuff and bring it back?
Well, that's separate.
Well, that's where I want to make sure that they're gonna not,
Yeah.
so
There's going to be.
why would
there's
we
gonna
not
be a
want to extend
portion of
the
time when-
moratorium?
If we don't extend it, that we will be back to our old regulation.
So
where
we-
everybody
the-
can do whatever they want.
So we should extend it.
Correct.
No, I don't think we have to wait. I think we could
Do it.
discuss it in 2 seconds and make a decision whether we want to do it or not. I mean, Stanley?
I think we should extend it until we figure out what's going on.
I agree. Let's extend it.
Agree?
Dominic?
I think so.
Yeah, there's your answer.
Okay.
Put it on for the next, make the process start working.
Okay.
So we don't lose any time. And also along with that, we have the, this, the update of the sign regulation, we're waiting for economic development to come back to us, but we're still waiting for the enforcement portion of it through the town council. And if the town council doesn't act to give us our enforcement with the ticketing system, there will never be any discussion on these signs. Because I'm not going forward with the sign regulation and all of this stuff without the enforcement. Because you can't have the regulation if you can't enforce it. So I don't know what the procedure is, but we got to get to the council and say, or to the town attorney and say, move the enforcement ticketing system along, because if we get to the point and we got a report back from economic development and we decide to proceed with a regulation, we'll have a regulation without the enforcement. So I don't know how to proceed, Mr. Planner.
Well, the issue of the ticket idea, I know roughly 2 years ago when this incarnation of TBZ sat, I think one of the first things you did was directed me to to ask the town attorney to dust off his original idea from back when he was previous town attorney, the ticket process. And I did. I asked him, and then I can ask him again that you want him to do that.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, maybe you could just get an update from him and ask him when he plans on presenting it to the council, whether he plans on presenting it to us first, then the council, to the council, then to us, what the procedure is, and whether or not it's coming soon. I have to agree with the chairman. It's a critical aspect of the sign regulations to have the sign enforcement in, and I agree with the chairman. I wouldn't proceed with anything until we have our ticket system working.
Any other any comments on that from the commissioners? I mean, we'd have a regulation, but we can't enforce it. Could you send something in writing to Benny, so it's in writing, and then copy the council,
Okay.
or in the full council?
To the council, okay.
Yeah, so that they know that we're looking for this. And you could put it in there that the commission feels that they want to work with the chamber and economic development, but we need the enforcement to proceed with if we are to proceed with a sign regulation, so that they're on notice that they could be the ones that are holding up the process if we decide to go that route.
Okay. I will do that.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have for my report.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions for the town planner.
Go ahead.
Mr. Planner, did you hear anything about that old mobile station on the Berlin Turnpike? Any movement on that at all?
I have not heard anything, but it's very possible that the CEO has, the building inspector has, that the town engineer has, but I have not.
What about my favorite thing up there on top of the hill, Mara? Any movement up there? I asked about trying to get that site cleaned up a little bit. It looks like hell.
Right. No, I would have asked Mike if he were here, but I don't know of any progress on that.
Okay, and what about the old Merrill Machine parking lot? Have we made any progress on getting that cleaned up on Day Street?
Well, as I reported at the last meeting, we met with the owner, and I think Mike even had another meeting with him afterwards. It's unfortunate that Mike isn't here, because he could definitely tell you more than I can. But other than what I told you the last time about the meeting we had with the owner, I don't know what's happened since then.
And have you looked at the old standard structural steel down there too? There's a pile of pallets sitting out there. It looks like hell.
Well, I haven't done anything, so.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just asking a question. I think Commissioner Payne brought that up a while
Yeah,
ago.
no, we should have brought those questions up when our zoning enforcement officer was here. Maybe he would have been able to answer them. Maybe we can,
Just send me an email, and I'll pass it along to
All
him.
right, I'll send him an email tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'll send you an
that's
email.
fine. Yeah, happy to do that.
Any other questions or for the planner? Okay, seeing none, communications, anything from CROG or anything you want to report?
No, I forwarded to you and Dom the last set of stuff from CROG that I got with the bills they were pushing through, or were trying to get through. The next meeting, CROG meeting is next month, so.
Any other communications?
The letter from Robert Amenta asking for guidance from the commission on some complicated zoning issues that he has. I thought he was going to be here. The commissioners have on the table a memo that I finished working on today. Well, that's his letter, but then on the table when you came in tonight was an updated memo where I addressed each of his 4 points. And some of his questions are complicated. Some of them are pretty straightforward.
Is that the email in the back here?
No, it's
I have nothing on my table. Oh, shit. You got it?
sorry.
I think there was one.
All right.
You get nothing here.
He's got it over there.
If he's not here, should we wait until he's here?
No, we could just touch upon it and see if there's anything that to give to the planner to give back to him.
Thank you.
Let me skip over my response to his first question, which takes up half of the first page, because that's complicated. Let me come back to that on the back side of the memo I just handed you. Number 2, existing overhead doors. I'll paraphrase this. He currently has 10 overhead doors facing the street. Simplified, in the simpler version, he can't have 10 doors facing the street, but they're grandfathered. They've been there forever. They're legal non-conforming. He can keep them forever. He was concerned that if he expands the building, that he's somehow going to be required to get rid of them. And I told him, no, you can have those 10 forever. And then he asked, well, what if he agrees to get rid of some of them? Will that help him in some way? And I said, not really, because you're allowed to have those 10. You're allowed whatever it is you want to ask for if the regs allow it. So whether you eliminate some of those 10 doors or not doesn't really affect anything. So there's no benefit to removing any of those 10 doors. His next question had to do with, and again, because of the way the regulation is phrased, the regulation kind of implies that if an existing building has any nonconformity involved with it, such as in his case, I'll simplify it, such as a building that's perfectly conforming with regard to setback and area and parking and all that, but the business that goes on there is no longer allowed in that zone. The regulations seem to imply that you can't make any change to a building where there's a non-conforming use going on inside. Now, it's true that you cannot expand a non-conforming use, but if somebody wanted to add on a wing to a building that is housing a non-conforming use, and in that additional wing conduct some business that is conforming, you're allowed to do that. There's no reason not to. But our regulations kind of imply that you can't. And I think it's just, the regulations just uses one word incorrectly, or in any event, there is no prohibition from someone enlarging the building as long as they don't expand the non-conforming business going on in that building. You need to make a distinction in your mind. You got a bunch of things going on in your mind at one time. There's a difference between the physical building and the business that's going on in there. Now, sometimes they're incredibly interrelated, and it's hard to separate them. But the building is one thing. The business that goes on is something different.
So if you're to take that building, that building owner comes before us to expand the building, he would have to operate a business that has nothing to do with what's inside the current nonconformity. So for discussion, if he came in and wanted to open an ice cream shop in that building, he could, but he couldn't open a used car lot.
Correct.
Okay. So you could enter into his non-conforming structure or of business operation and enter through his non-conforming operation, expand the building to something new, and have to transverse between the two through a non-conforming building.
Well, okay. You can make it, I think the way I phrase it is really the best way to make it clear, is that as long as the additional footage, as long as the additional floor area of the building houses an activity that's allowed in that zone, he's allowed to do that. All right, let me try a different way. You can add a second story to the building. And as long as the tenant that you rent the second story to is a permitted use, there's no problem with getting site plan approval to put a second story on your building, even if the first floor is a grandfathered non-conforming business.
So would you have? Forget it.
Mr. Chairman, I understand what you're getting at, but in his letter, he gave the appearance that he wanted to possibly expand his use and possibly have an additional use there. And his use can't be expanded until we correct the auto regulations, in my opinion. And I really think that we need to not do anything until, we don't even know if the court case is settled yet or not.
Right.
So I'd be interested to find out if that's done yet. And I would encourage this commission to look into redoing the auto regulations as soon as that court case is done. We've waited a tremendous long time for that, and you know, I think he's a little premature on it.
I don't know his boundaries north and south of that property, but what if he added on to his building on the backside?
That'd be expanding his use.
Right.
Well, no. If he okay, I'll just keep saying the same thing. He can make the building as big as he wants, but he cannot increase the floor area of however much floor area his non-conforming business is currently occupying.
Isn't that the whole building, though? Currently, just in discussion?
Well, I'm trying to discuss the principles first, make the principles locked in, and then apply them to his very unusual, and there are other things that make it more complicated. But the concept is, the building is separate from the use. If he has a 1,000 square foot building and 1,000 square feet are being used for the non-conforming use, he can add another 500 feet to the building as long as that additional 500 feet is a conforming use.
Okay. So basically, the concept of some of the buildings on the Pike, it's one big building, but it's almost split. Like the Town Fair Tire building diagonally across, well, you know, Town Fair Tire, Dunkin' Donuts, and not Rizzo, they're a separate building. Town Fair and Dunkin' are basically the same building.
Okay. Two tenants in that building.
Two
Okay.
tenants.
Mhm.
But their bays are on the backside.
I'm not worried about the bay, I'm worried about the occupancy use.
Okay, so we got two
So
tenants.
let's just say, in theory, they wanted to expand the Modern Tire, not his box, but he wanted to add a Dunkin' Donuts shop on it.
Okay, Dunkin' Donuts is a permitted use on the Berlin Turnpike, so there would be no problem with adding on a wing for Dunkin' Donuts,
Okay.
right?
Could that be conforming to the use?
To the zone.
Okay.
Right,
I got you.
exactly.
I think I'm,
Good, because now that you've got,
Provided that he could comply with parking and other
Forget that,
But that-
because
but no,
that's gonna be a
go-
whole nother.
yeah, but,
Right.
go
Whole
ahead,
nother discussion, because I
continue.
okay,
look at it and I
but
see.
now that you've got that, now I'm going to bring you to his fourth point, which
It gets to the lot
which gets
size.
confusing.
Gets to-
We have an arbitrary rule in Newington. You need 1 acre for an auto-related business, but if you want to have a Dunkin' Donuts also on your property, you need 3 acres.
Okay.
And he doesn't have 3 acres, so he's asking you if he'll be able to
So he's
create what I'm calling a mixed use.
But that's
And
all
the
part
answer
of
is
that.
no.
That's all part of that original auto regulations that was drafted up that caused all the problems.
The current rule is what I'm talking about, yes, right. Under the current rule, he can't
He'd be
He can't add on 500 feet for a Dunkin' Donuts because
size.
he doesn't have 3 acres. And under our rule, you need 3 acres to have a mixed development that includes an auto-related component. So those are pretty straightforward, and I believe I have talked to him about them. There was the first question, which we haven't even gotten to yet, the complicated one, because these last ones weren't complicated. It's the complicated one that he wants a ruling on, and his point is, and I dread doing this, but in our zoning regulations, we talk about 2 different classes of car-related uses. One's called motor vehicle service, and that's tires, oil changes, lubes, brakes, you know, the muffler, the Midas muffler, modern tire types of things.
Okay.
Then the other category is called auto-related use, and that's car dealerships, general repairs, car rental places, 2 different categories. Now, we use in our description of the 2 different classifications the relevant DMV license that someone needs to be able to do those kinds of things. His problem is he has the more robust kind of DMV license, the type that you need to have an auto-related use under our regulations, But what he actually does during the day is not what we would call auto-related use. What he does is simply motor vehicle service, which is allowed on the Berlin Turnpike. So his dilemma is he's got the more robust permit, even though he doesn't, I think, actually do the things that he could under a general repairs license general repairs license. He's only doing the things that he. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So, however, the regulation does say if you have a general repairs license, you are therefore by definition an auto-related use, and you can't do auto-related uses in the Berlin Turnpike. So it's kind of a catch-22 that he's in.
So until the loss or the litigation gets finalized, you really are in a,
Well,
you said it, he and us are in a catch-22 with each other for his business and his use on a, I mean.
Well, what I suggested to him at one of our meetings was to come before the commission, explain the situation the way I just did, assuming I'm correct, and ask the commission to make a finding that what he actually is doing is what's allowed in a motor vehicle service. The fact that he has the more robust license shouldn't be, it's just a piece of paper. It shouldn't be what's preventing him from getting on with his life, since what he's actually doing, we allow on the Berlin Turnpike. Now, incredibly complicated. Maybe the best thing I can tell him is just, Mr. Menta, just wait till the lawsuit is settled. You're now a clean, completely conforming business, and then expand or do whatever you want to do under whatever the new rules are.
That'd be the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
Unless his idea is to use that robust license that he's not benefiting from.
Well, which he can't, he flat out cannot do.
Yes, he can.
No, he can't do.
Already can do
Well,
it.
no, I mean, he can't.
He has the right to do anything he wants with automobiles on that property. He has a general
Oh, as long as he's
license.
always been doing them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he can
right.
go-
He can always do
but
what
he
he's
can
always,
currently,
continue
right
to do
now-
what he's always been doing.
But can he currently, because he's been established with that robust license since day one, he could convert to that without even coming to us?
He already has a general repairs license. He has the ability to do any repairs on a vehicle he wants. My suggestion would be, find out if the court case is over or not, and hopefully, as soon as that's over, we can address the regulations in a comprehensive way that'll make things fair and get the nonconformity out of half the businesses in town. And that's what I would recommend.
Okay, well, that's what I'll tell him.
Yep.
We're good.
Okay. Public participation.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Moratorium that you have on temporary signs. I still see that there's a lot of temporary signs being put up and around town, but as a kind of disinterested party where it's not going to affect me one way or the other, but as an interested party, as a resident, I've sat through many meetings here when this issue's been discussed. I sat at a heated EDC meeting last week with people from businesses in town. I'm sure you're aware of probably what went on at that meeting. There are people that are interpreting your regulations different ways. They're being told that what one interpretation is, it's not really what it is. One thing in particular, the 25 consecutive days, they got into a discussion as to whether it was 25 consecutive days or if you could split it into 5 days. My question is, I know that you said that you can't get together with them and form a committee because at some point you're going to have to make a decision on the way it's going to go. But is there any way that there could be some sort of a work session where there could be 2 members from EDC, 2 members from here, 2 members from the chamber? Because it's really getting out of control. And when I see someone that's running for a political office scheduling a forum to try and help you out, it bothers me. that this commission, the EDC, and the chamber can't come together in some way to come up with a solution for the problem. I'm not saying that there's going to be a solution, because I know you've tried hard, and everybody's needs are different. But there was one woman accusing this of being a political thing. And I don't want to see it turn into a political football, because I think, to me, that it's something that's been going on for a while and it needs to be addressed. And I hope there's some way that you all can come together and come up with some solutions. Because quite honestly, I don't think the Chamber of Commerce thought that they were the ones that were going to have to bring something to the EDC. And it just, and last night at Town Council, they talked about new ordinances, and I think it was for blight that they want to address the enforcement there. And there was a discussion how it should have gone to the Blight Committee. It shouldn't have gone to the town attorney before that. So I don't know whether the ordinance that they're referring to for blight also has something to do with the signs, but I keep saying communication, communication, communication. People have to start talking to one another about what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish, because I think everybody has the same goal. It's just in getting there, it loses something along the way. Thank you.
Anybody want to comment to that?
Mr. Chairman. I think everybody's making this into more difficult than it really is. It's pretty obvious why the TPC can't get involved in this, because we have to draft up regulations. EDC asked everybody to just come in with some ideas. Don't try to draft up regulations for us. We're not going to probably use the same regulations. We're going to probably change everything in the TPZ regulations for the signs, probably. And they're just to come in and give some recommendations. I think that EDC is having a hard time with Chamber. Hopefully that gets corrected and they can come back and give us some ideas that they have, and then we can move forward on a sign regulation. But that's how simple it is. And yeah, there was some people that were trying to make it appear like it was a political thing. It's not. I think the chairman and everybody else on this board, which is a bipartisan board, can attest that they spent a lot of time trying to correct the sign regulations, and so it shouldn't be turned into a political football. And I would hope that nobody running for office tries to turn it into a political issue. I'm sure our members of the commission will be reasonable and try to come up with something, provided that we get our enforcement ticket system enacted. We should be able to correct the sign regulations and give it a little time and see if it works. And all we were asking is them to bring some recommendations to us. And I think that the chairman of the EDC is working on that and trying to work with the chamber and some of the businesses, and hopefully they will be successful, and they'll have something to us shortly.
It was not the Town Plan and Zoning Commission that initiated the request to have these committees and this forums and allow the business community to have this input. It was not initiated from us. It was brought to us as an idea, and we accepted it, and we'll listen and see what they bring forward. But there's no way that we could put together a committee and have two of our members sit on that committee and then put them in a position that they cannot vote on if we get to the point to doing a regulation on the signage where they're almost can't act on it because we're part of the process of putting it together. So I think we're in the right here of not. We would like to communicate, but we don't know who to communicate with, and it's up to them to bring something to us, some ideas to us. That's what they asked us. That's what they asked us that they wanted to do, and we've agreed to that. Bobby.
I just want to echo both what Commissioner Payne said and what Chairman Aida just said. This is not political. It doesn't matter what side of the table you're on with this. For as long as I've been part of this commission, we've been talking about this issue. We've been battling this issue. We've all been in agreement that something needs to be done. We have all agreed with each other. There has been no disdain towards each other. There's been no animosity towards each other. We have all agreed that something needs to be done. So if anybody is trying to make a political issue out of this, they have not been coming to these meetings. They have not been watching these meetings. I think this commission has gotten along fairly well. I've heard lots of compliments, how well we do work together, how well we do move things along. And I'm actually quite proud of that. And for any politician, and I will repeat what Commissioner Payne said, to try to use this as a political tool, I will be one of the first ones to tell them they're wrong, and I don't care what side of the table they're on.
Thank you, Bob. It's pretty obvious where, where this is going. I mean, if you've been around, Rose, a long time, you've seen this thing from the beginning. This, how many years Carol and I, Carol, who's minority leader now and was on the council, she was on the TPZ. Her and I worked on a committee. We worked for over a year, and we couldn't come to a solution on these things. And I mean, you talk about bipartisan working relationships. I mean, I thought, I know we had it. Her and I agreed on the committee that we had serious sign problems with these temporary signs. And I mean, it's not a political issue. I mean, we have Democrats and Republicans sitting here, and we all agree. We're all in agreement that we have a serious problem with the temporary sign regulations. So if someone's using it for political or trying to use it as a political tool to get elected or get a nomination or whatever, that's, I don't know how we fight that. Go ahead, Rose.
Once again, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I hope you realize I was not accusing this commission of that. I was just saying I didn't like to see the direction it was going because I know how hard you've worked on it. And I suggested to the chamber at the EDC meeting to look at the regulations. I don't think they even had the regulations in front of them. And if they have a question as to what this regulation means, bring it to EDC and say to EDC, well, I think that the 25 consecutive days means this, but somebody else thinks it means that. And maybe we need...
Then they could get a clarification.
But it was chaotic. I have to say it was chaotic. And maybe because I've been watching it at all the different meetings, and in their defense, in the chamber's defense, I don't think they understood what they were supposed to be doing or how to do it. But when you don't have the regulations in front of you to look at, to refer to, and even if you do, you're not sure whether your interpretation is right or not, I think they've just got to get down to basics, and it could be a fairly simple process, and their questions could be answered. But once again, I was not accusing anyone here at this table of any political stuff. It was just an accusation that was thrown out and I found offensive. And I don't like the direction it's going. Thank you.
Just one more thing from me. And Rose, I did not take it that way from you. I know better than that. I've read this statistic before, and I'm just going to do it one more time. Last year, and this is for violations, and these are the numbers for the 2016 calendar year. Last year, 164 notice of violations / citations were issued. Of the 164, roughly 101 of them were related to temporary signage. That equates to roughly 62%. 62% of our ZEO's time was chasing signs. So the easiest thing would be If people obeyed and went by the rules that we currently have, we wouldn't be dedicating all this time. And ironically, some of the biggest violators are the ones that are opposing some of the changes. And I'm not going to mention names. I'm not here to embarrass people, but we know who they are. So because these rules aren't being followed, we do have to come up with something. And that's what we're trying to do. That's why this is taking place. So keep that in mind. 62% of our ZEO's time is spent chasing signs.
Great point. Mike?
I'm a businessman in town, and if you tell me I can't do something because there's a new regulation, I would use that energy, rather than fight you, to find a better way to market myself. And I'd rather have a piece of paper blow down the road or become trash, and you do that all the time. There's signs everywhere. And I was on that sign committee with you and Carol
Yep.
also. You have the chamber, you have this committee, you have this committee. Why not have a seminar or a class to show these people there's another avenue to market your business instead of wasting your money on a piece of paper? It's going to get wet and get run over by a lawnmower or whatever. There are other ways to market your business instead of a small sign. For the same money, by the end of the year, you could have a great website. Just an idea.
Stanley?
I agree with everything that's been said here. My suggestion is maybe the town planner could sit at the EDC and help them. You're saying no, Commissioner Payne? The only reason why, what I'm saying here is that if they don't know the regulations, he could just maybe point it out to them, not to get involved with them.
The chairman of the EDC doesn't care about the regulations. All she's trying to do is get input from the businesses. She got input from Stu's. For instance, I'll give you an example. Stu's said that they like the 25 days. They use it during the winter time, but they would love to have another 25 days they could use in the spring. Okay? So that's 50 days. Okay, and then there was some other people that said that they would like to have A-frames next to the doorways. So those are the kinds of things that she's trying to get input from. What would you guys like? What would be helpful for your business? And then just bring those ideas to us, and then we can draft up new regulations to try to incorporate some of those things into our regulations. So it's that simple. And she's trying to meet with them all again. Because as Rose said, it was an extremely hectic meeting and she was extremely frustrated and she almost was going to bring it right back to us and say she can't do anything with it. But she stuck it out and they're going to have some more meetings and hopefully she can gather some input from them, and then she's anticipating to come back and present those ideas to us so that we can incorporate those ideas into some sort of regulations that work with an enforcement action also.
Yeah, see, all I'm concerned with is the amount of time, as Commissioner Sarah said, that our zoning officer is spending pulling signs out and doing this and doing that. He has other things he has to be done here, and I'm just saying that it seems to me we've got to be able to move this from dead center and get it moving forward somehow or other.
Yeah.
And I understand the frustration of all these commissions. I fully understand that. But I'm just saying, I was just maybe, along with what Commissioner Camello said, that maybe it's a good idea to get some type of workshop together. That's all it is. I mean, you're just trying to find a way without committing anybody so that they can't vote on them. But I'm just saying maybe get a workshop or something like that.
Just one last comment. I believe that they're going to try to have a couple more meetings, and hopefully they bring some more ideas, and then she plans on bringing it back to TPZ. I don't think she's going to drag this thing out for a long period of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this?
On the sign issue,
Yeah.
I'll hold till I see what comes before us.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating for us because we've been working on, and it's frustrating for Mike, myself, Carol. We worked on these things for over a year, and we couldn't come to a conclusion. That's why I made the suggestion to take the sign regulation, the temporary signs right out, because we couldn't come to a solution. But we're reasonable. We're willing to look at it again and hopefully come up with something that no one's gonna be 100% happy in this process, trust me. So everybody's gonna have to give something here. TPZ's gonna have to give up something, and the business community's gonna have to give up something. But the attitude that I've seen from the business community is that, this is what we want. They were so unreasonable from the beginning with their requests that it turned us right off. They wanted 165 day, they wanted temporary signs every day of the year. Well, that's not even a temporary sign, that's a permanent sign. I mean, so, we'll see what happens, how they came back, the Economic Development Commission comes back to us with some thoughts and ideas. Okay, commissioner remarks. Mike?
This Saturday's the field trip there, in the pouring rain. I'm not gonna be able to make it. I've got a dance recital to go to at 1 o'clock.
Hey, why can't we do it before the next meeting?
Okay.
Okay? An hour,
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Whoever can make it, can make it. If not, then that'll be the date. That's when we're gonna do it. I know we have you published it already, or,
Oh, I posted with the town clerk, but that's not cast in stone.
I think that's easy. And whoever shows up, shows up. If not, then, you're on your own. You have to go do your own.
Is that the 24th?
Drive by on your bike, park it, and walk over.
You just won't go.
So 5 o'clock, and our meeting starts at 7, so that gives us enough time,
Or plenty.
Yeah.
plenty of time.
Sure, okay.
Where are we meeting again?
All right, I had suggested the parking lot.
Of
Well,
the
okay.
Fast
the
track?
Fast track parking, because on a Saturday afternoon, I thought that would be a good time. A Wednesday afternoon, maybe not such a good place. So that,
No,
what
it
do you all,
it
what do you
clears out.
what do you all think?
No, I've seen it. It's not, at that 5 o'clock, I live
Right.
right down the street. It's not that
Crowded?
crowded. For a couple cars, it's,
Park next door.
yeah.
So do you think wouldn't be a problem then,
Won't be a problem.
meeting at the parking lot? Okay.
Take the bus from the other one.
Go park at Cedar Street.
And come
Fenn
down.
Road, and we'll meet you at the.
Sorry, that came out.
That's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
And pay the dollar something.
Go long lunch in Elwood and then take it from Elwood.
Any other commissioner remarks? Anthony, you had something? You're all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. Sorry.
All set.
Good. Bobby?
I don't get out of work till 5, so I won't be at
If
that
you-
meeting.
You come when you can. If you can't come, then you know where the area is. Take a walk around. Okay, seeing no other commissioner remarks, I have no closing remarks. A motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?